So the challenge with having to pay ransom, the police usually will tell you that we don't know anything about it. I spoke with the Edo State Police spokesman a few days ago, and we were asking questions as to how did you get these guys back? Or was ransom paid? He said, "No, we don't talk about ransom. We don't know anything about it." But it's an active process that every Nigerian knows. As a matter of fact, the president was quoted last year to have said that we wouldn't want to use force on these kidnappers so that we don't get the victims killed. Are there no alternatives to payment, considering the empowerment of the kidnappers to do the crime again?
Plenty moving parts. You must look at it case by case. The U.S. government says they do not negotiate with terrorists, but that's what they say. They just did a prisoner exchange with Russia. They did a deal with Iran.
I'm not saying Russia is a terrorist.
No, I'm not saying that. Flew over $500 billion, as it were, to Iran. Yeah. And when they want to do some of those things, they have third parties they use just because they say so. Sometimes you have to do what you have to do. That's why issues of national security are clothed in some kind of form of secrecy. Now, if you say that because you don't want to you want to minimize collateral damage, that's why you're not going with force. That's another thing to say, but ISR is the way to go.
Sorry, hold on a minute. James has called in from Edo. Let's just take his call and then we'll continue.
Yeah.
Hi, James.
You want to minimize collateral damage.
Good morning, James. Are you there?
That's another thing to say.
We lost that call. James, please call back. You could continue.
Yeah, so ISR, when you talk about ISR, you're talking about intelligence, surveillance, reconnaissance. The world has even moved now from ISR to directing fire based on your platforms. So you can coordinate with your surveillance assets and do like precision strikes on different locations. So Nigeria is way behind the curve in terms of our ISR capabilities. And we have federal universities of technology, and sometimes it beats me to wonder why we're not able to develop some of these capabilities. Because if you don't have that, then you will resort to fighting blind or going out on blind fighting patrols, which we see the military do in the northwest now. And because the insurgents know the ground, they know they pick their ambush points, and sometimes you have the military run into some problems because you're flying blind. So there are some of those issues. So when you don't have the capability, you can then begin to clutch at different narratives. The other thing is that, yes, like the last speaker said, kidnap for ransom is quite lucrative. Unfortunately, it is what it is now. The ones that have demanded for 20,000 in Medu shows that they are...
I mean 20 million. Please hold that
20
thought.
million, sorry. Yeah.
James has called back. Hello, James. Good morning, James. Are you there?
Okay. Good morning, sir.
Good morning. Please go ahead and turn down the volume of your TV.
Yes, I'm here. I'm with you. Hello? Hello?
Go ahead with your contribution.
I said, are you hearing me?
Yes, we can.
Hello? I said, the issue of you people discussing, I'm very interested because what is really happened to with the common men, that if some of us go to the police station and before you can take, they will tell you to go and buy stationery. And if you want to give, before they grab on bail, they must say go and pay your stationery. You will pay some money to the police who's on the charge of the case. At the same time, sometimes if you want to take an arrest, they will ask you to go and pay for fuel. So that you pay for fuel before they give you the vehicle and policemen to go to that side. So what is exactly happening, what the other man is saying is right. Because Nigeria government is very bad, very porous, in the sense that one. So even finance, we are talking of security. Security, we are talking of what actually are not ready to fund the security. Really, when you get to some of the places or the house of rep in your own local government, you will see that what the vehicle which is which is being its own, which is on its own compact, is more than what the local government they are using. All the security in your local government they are using. So even though the maintenance is the same thing. So when you look at issue of Nigeria security, no, they are not ready to take care of Nigeria security on as a word of what they are telling us. But they are starting election and campaigning.
All right, James, I think you made your point, and he's corroborating what you mentioned about the challenges of the police earlier on. You were saying that we are way behind when it comes to the technology required.
Yeah, we're quite behind the curve. Very, very behind the curve. And if you are that behind the curve, you must throw bodies in. So we don't have the ISR capabilities that we should have as a nation, and we don't have the bodies that we should have on the ground. Then, more importantly, every sensible approach to security should be local. So you don't have state police. The states can make laws, they can adjudicate, they can't enforce. You see, and what the MOPO that you have were like a tactical squad, really, to respond to the anti-riot police by design. You see, so if you have the first contact made by local forces, and if it gets out of hand, they can call in help from tactical units stationed at different places. You have people who are using Dane guns as locals. You have the assailants who are coming with AK-47. The firing range of the AK-47 is different from that of the Dane gun, so they are completely at a disadvantage. When the Ugumbe train station incident occurred, they said there was no police. That's not true. That's a major hub. But if you're a trained person, you do a tactical withdrawal. You leave the scene.
When you say the firepower.
Yes, because you make no difference wasting your life. If you are one or three person and you can assess that there's serious danger, you do the first thing your training tells you to do.
Run.
No, it's not called run. You will keep yourself safe. You keep safe. That's what you do. The first thing is you keep safe. When you're hearing the gunfire, you can tell the caliber of the rifle. You know what is sounding. And you know that sometimes the people shooting are trained. The retired military pensioners are still crying for their debarment allowance. If you see the way these people handle weapons, you know that these people are trained persons. Short of saying that, some of them are either serving personnel or retired personnel who are jobless. We said we're fighting a ragtag army, but their shooting maneuvers, their postures, their military intelligence, the way they do things, it doesn't suggest that these people are novices. So there's a lot of issues. We can come now cry for the head of the CP railway. The Edo state government is doing a lot in terms of security. So they have intelligence, but maybe they don't have as much of surveillance and reconnaissance, because then you need loitering drones that can stay long in the air, surveying a long area. You need day and night capability. So there are some things we also don't have.
Let's take this call from Abia State. Good morning, Mazi.
This one in the studio. Now, I want to, this issue of security we are talking about, looking at your caption that against Boko Haram, Buhari says he kept his promise. Now, let's look at all these issues of equipment. The governors are buying and giving to security agencies. Does it mean they don't include drones in all these their equipment they are buying? I'm asking because the issue of security networking is no longer this katakpo or this popopo. The drone, as far as I'm concerned, in terms of security, as I've seen, in terms of detectives, drone is the best option for this country. Because if they buy all this equipment and each state governors, they provide drones. When a drone incident happened, it was the duty of the people in charge of that drone to follow up. The people fly. Is it not the road that they followed? Either by either they use a keke or they use a bike. They will follow the road. Is it not the job of the drone? They use it now to now inform security. They will capture all those phones. But this is a question of they will buy vehicles. They say they buy. It just I look at it as just a Christmas or New Year jamboree that the governors are doing. Because the earlier they back up or do their issue drones, the better for us. Because I see no reason. When that incident happened, it was in the daytime. Within 4 hours with drones, we could have tracked those things and all these issues. Now look at the money they are expecting to pay 50 million. Now, 20 million people are going to pay. And now the 20 million gathered to get to this state, can't they do it? So what are we saying? We know exactly what to do, because to me, all this is divided down to political situation. The area we find the lasting solution to this.
I get your point, Mazi.
But whether that.
Thank you so much for your contributions. So I've heard a lot of people talk about decentralizing the police, state, community police, and things like that. But when you talk about the sophistication of the arms and ammunition in the hands of these criminals, it seems that wouldn't change much if we do not, deal with proliferation of arms and how these people get this ammunition. Because there is, what do they call them in those states? The
Amotekun.
The Amotekun. They are not going to carry they're not going to carry AK-47. So what can we do to deal with the proliferation and ensure that these arms don't get to the wrong hands in the first place?
So in the first instance, you want to collect arms from people who have arms. You think they will surrender their arms to you because they like your face. You have to have the carrot and have a very big stick, a stick that is bigger than the carrot. Otherwise, nobody will take you seriously. So you have to arm up. You arm up to the teeth. That's on the issue of proliferation and mopping up of arms. And I told you that you don't hear much about the African Union. You don't hear much about ECOMOG. You see, there's been some decapitation of certain regional African-centric force structure. We need to go back to it. Africa needs to take back its continent and clean up the madness in the Sahel. There are a number of poor states border in Nigeria, so sometimes when we try to do this regional multinational joint task force, they still expect Nigeria to do the bulk of the load lifting. And sometimes, you see, with very profound respect to politicians, we don't have the best minds as leaders. So some shenanigans gets into those conversations, which should be very serious conversations. Because if all the countries bordering the Sahel become rather very serious about some of these issues, you can deal with the issue of proliferation of weapons, at least coming from that Sahel region, and you clean it up, and then you deal with local issues with your structure.
I'm going to have to hold you again. Mohammed has called in from Abuja. Good morning, Mohammed.
Good morning, Fendi. How are you?
Terrific.
Fine. I greet the guests in the house.
Good morning, sir.
Yeah, I agree with you totally. All your views, I agree with them.
Thank you, sir.
And concerning Mr. President's achievement concerning security, promise that is not bandits, not whatever, because that time bandits is just between farmers and headers clash. There was nothing like bandit. This bandit issue was created for political reasons. Everybody knows. So for that, Mr. President has fulfilled his promise for fighting bandit terrorists, Boko Haram, because Boko Haram, Abuja, when we are that time, if we are going to work, we have to pray before going to office. Then we have to pray again before going back to the house. That one is number one. Let me raise that case now. Concerning issue of railway, I want federal government to employ railway security like air, and then give them arms, because airport.
Your line is breaking, Mohammed. Well, thank you so much for calling in. Are you still there?
Yeah, I'm here. I said the federal government should recruit security for railway station, and then give them arms
to be able to do the job. Thank you so much for calling in. Let us quickly talk about election and the security threat that INEC is talking about. We had spoken with an INEC commissioner earlier this week, and he said, reacting to Mr. President's position, that has given INEC everything that they need. And he was saying, well, safe for the security situation. And just yesterday, another INEC official is saying that security still poses a threat to elections holding. Federal government, on the other hand, is saying the election is going to go on. There is nothing like that. But we saw what happened in 2015. It wasn't even, it was worse than what we currently have, an election still held. Do you see a significant threat based on your security analysis?
No, but I can understand the concerns of INEC. Now, if you look at the way we play our politics in Nigeria, and we do an election preparedness workshop, a snap call, starting from end of January to February, what you have been seeing is been a joke. Crime will peak significantly. Comparing 2015 to 2023, two different cases. And like you rightly said, election still held. Now you have a widely dispersed issue. If you aggregate the hotspots together, we will not get up to 3-4 local governments in terms of land mass. Nigeria has over 774 local governments. So even if you aggregate, you don't have a significant amount of landmass that is impaired for you to not hold a national election for the office of president. So election we hold, insecurity is dispersed, it is reduced to different places. Now, Professor Jagas said that when you look at political violence, look to the politicians. Because in our own space, it looks like almost a war of attrition. You destabilize your opponents in their area of strength, and you play up your own area of strength to your advantage. You affect the psychic of the voter. People begin to second-guess themselves and ask themselves, is it worth it at all?
Please hold that thought. Ada's called in from Jos. Good morning, Ada.
Hello.
Good morning.
Hello, good morning, Isomia and your guest there. Yes, I've listened. It's Ada calling from Jos Plateau State. I've listened to your guest. Yes, I agree with what you said. But I remember, I can recall he mentioned Rwanda. After that genocide, Rwanda government took a bold step to expunge tribes from their constitution, thus addressing the root cause. The problem we have in Nigeria is that we don't go to the root causes, So now, insecurity is not only fought with the gun. From the socio-economic viewpoint, address the issue of unemployment, illiteracy, inequity, that is injustice, and the rest of them, and it will drop. You need to drop. There's no place you don't find insecurity, no matter how well, even America and the rest of them. But this idea of unknown government and the rest of them, why can a government every time you say unknown government, and the structure, even your guest that is there, if they take me to government today, he cannot perform. He can't perform, not because he doesn't know what to do. They will not allow him to perform. The structure. We have a structural deficit. We have a problem with our structure. And we should practice fiscal federalism. This kind of one police and all the rest of them. Then even the vigilantes, the hunters, and the established security houses by the government, they are not allowing them bear the supposed arms, sophisticated arms to match the non-state actors. It doesn't make sense. So I don't know the view of your guest about that. It doesn't make sense to me. You don't allow them to bear arms. When this thing happened, it was the hunters. They were the ones that led the way because they know the bush. They know it very well. So what are we talking about? So Buhari, he has done well. Boko Haram, how can you separate it from the general insecurity? Both of them have fled from there because the army did not do a coordinated kind of thing. So for me, that Boko Haram thing is not even, it has not been put to rest. They're only taking some, they're recuperating somewhere, forming sales, right, left, and center.
All right, Ada.
Let's not do about this country, shall be well. I demand.
Thank you for your contribution. You were talking about violence being a political strategy for politicians. So
Yeah.
I'd like us to quickly reference what happened in Anambra, where election held, I think it was last year or the year before. And even with the sit down on Mondays, the agitation for secession, elections still held.
Yes.
Although, the military had the privilege of an isolated election where they had all the manpower moved to that area. But if you look at the figures, only 10% of registered voters came out to vote.
That's why I said it's a cultural problem. And I like what Ada said, that, I do think that some social critics themselves don't turn out to be very good professionals when you put them in government. Even as I am, I'm considered to have a big mouth sometimes. And they say that excessive intelligence can be a cause in Nigeria. That's a problem, really. And I agree with Ada that the buck stops at the table of Mr. President. Remember body language. He sets the body language for the institutions that he manages. So poor, good, sink, swim is the president. And no, he cannot just say because he's done well with Boko Haram, which you all agree, we should then give him a pat on the back. No, sir. No, we can't do that. Number two, another thing that has perpetuated itself over the years is that we have continued to have the NSC come from a constituency. We are no longer under military rule. Nigeria does not need NSA that is ex-military. That's an aberration. The military today has operations in over 31 states. I don't know about this current CDS. Before, CDS will have operation. COAS will have operation. Chief of Naval Staff, everybody's having operation. It's an aberration. The Chief of Army Staff is the one managing the ground forces. Can have operations. NSA has operation. NFIU has operation. EFCC has, ICPC has operation. Everybody's having operation. So everybody's working. Who is coordinating? That office of the NSA should be like a policy institute from where you drive the actions of the 29 agencies we have responsible for security. That office should coordinate, but it should coordinate from a policy point of view. Not you bring an ex-military person who does everything to ensure that it's ex-military constituency. You come to sit down in a meeting, the army is there, DSS is there, the police is there, and because you have a brigadier general who is like maybe brigade commander, you will say that he's the chief of security. No, sir.
Let's take a last call from Abuja. Good morning, John.
Good morning.
Good morning. Please go ahead with your contribution.
All right. I wanted to just ask the guest who is eloquently presenting his views.
I didn't quite get that.
So thanks so much, and thanks to the guest who is really responding to most of the issues. But I have a very fundamental question, which one of the callers says that the Boko Haram has been eliminated. However, the bandits are all political arrangements. But I want to ask, what is the difference then between Boko Haram and bandits in the context of security? Bandits had actually been metamorphosed and changed its name, from Boko Haram to bandits. So whichever way you would say, this is still the same thing. So when Mr. President says that the issue of Boko Haram has been put to rest, for my own view, I think that is completely not true. Because there's Boko Haram, who was actually a security problem, and that has metamorphosed into so many other areas of unknown men or gun-known men or bandits, as the case may be. So I think the issue is setting the difference between what is the Boko Haram or what is Boko Haram, and also with some of these other non-branded names.
All right,
so as far as I'm concerned, there is nothing really that has been put to rest as far as Boko Haram.
That's your time, John. Thank you for your contribution from Abuja. I think you established that when you say that beyond the nomenclature, they're all armed criminal gangs.
No, there's a big difference. John, I recognize your voice, so I think I know who just called.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so let me just resolve like this.
You have just 60 seconds.
That's fine. Yeah. Boko Haram was majorly a Kanuri insurrection, and you can quote me on this. What is happening in the Northwest, what you call armed bandits, are armed criminal groups that morphed from cattle rustling. So once people were robbed of their livelihood, and that's been going on for over 20 years. So those are armed criminal groups. There's the argument that some of the actors that moved from the Northwest to the Northeast, when it was good, when the heat came on them, they fanned back out. ISWAP is different. ISWAP now has a presence in Kogi, showing from the Kogi bomb blast, even the new ISIS leader, the ISWAP cell pledge an allegiance. ISWAP is completely different. There's Ansaru in the Northwest, and some part of the Northwest, Ansaru is protecting communities from the armed criminal groups. When you talk about armed banditry, you talk about gun running, and you talk about lawless group of people who just go about raiding, looting, and that's why you call them armed bandits. The court has now classified them as terrorists. So let's resolve that, whether they are Boko Haram, ISWAP, Ansaro, or they are all terrorists. So
good place to leave it. Perhaps you should have a YouTube channel where you do the detailed lecturing on on issues like this. Oyekachi Adekoya, CEO PR24 Risk Management Company. Thank you so much for
thank you for having me.
on
Thank
the
you.
program today.